if you don't accept yourself, nothing else, no one else is either. You know, it's like, I think of it as like we're all creations of God. We all come from the same place. You know, T.S. Eliot said that we shall not cease from exploration, but at the end of all of our exploring will be to return to the place from which we originated and to know it for the first time. And he was speaking about death, and I don't take that as an explanation of death. I take that as an explanation of an understanding that we all emerged from this place, the same place, that we're all connected. Everything in this universe is connected. Larry Dossey has just written a beautiful book called One Mind, and I've just finished reading it, and it's like showing scientifically how everything is connected to everything in this universe, and you can't take anything and not see the connection to it, especially at the quantum level. So that who you are is a creation of God. You know, in my book Wishes Fulfilled, I talk about, it's like one of the things you have to recognize is that your highest self is God. You must be like what you came from. So a little tiny spark of who you are is the Tao, is God, is divine mind, is Krishna, is consciousness, is Buddha, whatever you want to call it. In the Tao, the opening line of the Tao says, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. We can't find a name for it. It's just like, but it's the best name we can come for it is something called love. It's just love. It's divine love. And so this is what you came from. So if you don't accept yourself, you're not accepting something that is the creation of God. You know, because truly, I mean, it's like the greatest wisdom that you can have is the recognition that you are a piece of this divinity. And I walk around with just Rumi said, sell your cleverness and purchase bewilderment. I'm just in a state of bewilderment about it all. And when you accept yourself, you love yourself. And when you love yourself, that's what you have to give away. And the only thing that you can give away, and that's what a saint is, someone who can only give love away, because that's all they have inside. That's been my goal in my life, is to have no enemies, to have nothing, and particularly not to make an enemy of myself. To love everything about myself. And while I was going through the last 6 months of this pain, the stuff we tapped on down in Australia and so on, most of the time, and you've heard me say it many times, say there's a lesson in this for me. And I just did a public television special, another public television special. And when I got an hour and a half before the show to start, I got one of these attacks again in the neck, and I was just like, how am I going to get through this thing and so on. And I said a prayer. My wife was there, 2 of my girls were there, we were in the room, I had my arms around them, and I said, if I'm supposed to endure this pain, for whatever reason that I don't even understand yet, I'm willing to do it, but could I please just have the next couple of hours so that I could at least get through this experience? And it just dissolved, and I was able, you were there, you were in the audience, and I was able to go out there and do it, and then the pain returned the next day, and I went right back to that state, and I still do it now, and I can feel it even now as we're talking about it a little bit here. And instead of cursing it, instead of being angry at it, I accept it as my Dharma. This is, and whatever it is that I have to learn from it, generally speaking, every difficulty I've had in my life, getting divorced, literally being someone who is addicted to substances, including alcohol, letting go of those kinds of beliefs that those are terrible things that I should be ashamed of. They've been amongst my greatest teachers. And this pain is just another one of those things. And generally speaking, I now can go out and help people who live in chronic pain. And you do a lot of this with your tapping. I've seen you do it on stage, with people. When we were out in Australia, that one woman, what was it? She couldn't even...
Well, there's one lady with a frozen shoulder who couldn't move her arm.
Hadn't been able to move her arm in years.
In 20 minutes, she got it up like that.
So it's like, and that comes from just accepting yourself, and actually instead of cursing the pain, because when you curse the pain and get angry at it, you get angry. Every cell of your being goes through that same anger, and what you want to do is just get to that peaceful place within yourself where you say, when you trust in yourself, you're really trusting in the wisdom that created you, and the wisdom that created you is infinite, and it's formless. And so your thoughts are in that same category. Have thoughts that are aligned with that divine presence. You'll see it going away. Just as the state of your life is a reflection of your state of mind, so too is the state of the world a reflection of our collective state of mind. Understanding this leads to knowing that we are capable of creating a world of real magic in the same way that I have been encouraging you to create real magic in your own individual life. The universe we live in works in exactly the same way as the universe that is within us. In order to create a world of real magic, it is necessary to know within that this is your job to accomplish. You cannot resign in anguish if others refuse to see the light. Know that you can radiate outwardly all of the messages in this tape and create the kind of real magical world that you envision. One of your biggest challenges may be in refusing to sit in judgment of those things which you perceive to be wrong or imperfect. The perceived inequities in the world are truly part of the perfection of the universe, but so is your desire to end them. If you stand way back in your mind, you will note that a revolution of spiritual dimensions is taking place right now. The Berlin Wall was built to last 1,000 years, yet today it is nothing more than a relic of an ancient non-spiritual past. That shrine of tyranny is but one of many that are toppling faster than we can update the history books. There is a new collective consciousness in the minds of people, and a new spiritual awareness is spreading throughout humanity. Nothing can stop it, for nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Communism, which insists upon atheism from its subjects, has been declared an international failure. Rulers can remove the outer places of worship, but the inner place, that invisible corner of freedom that is ever present in each of us, cannot be legislated. In China, where more than 1 billion souls are temporarily residing, 1 million of those souls face tanks to demonstrate their desire for freedom. And while the messengers can temporarily be imprisoned, the message cannot be halted. These changes are all taking place in the minds of individuals and spreading to other individuals to form a collective consciousness. Once the ideas become present in a large enough number of us, they become our reality. This number is called a critical mass. The force cannot be stopped. Some will try, but they will be swept away by the power of an idea whose time has come. The changes in the world are not restricted to political realignments and new nuclear policies. A new spiritual consciousness toward our environment has manifested itself into action as well. The idea that we should treat the earth with sacred reverence is being translated into physical realities. You are seeing the fruits of these thoughts blooming everywhere. All of the changes that you see taking place around you, which reflect a growing concern for the individual, for a peaceful, safe, harmonious world, are part of a glorious revolution that is taking place first and most importantly in our thoughts. You are a part of that process. Whatever thoughts you have can and will be spread to those around you. You influence the physical world with your thoughts. Of that you should be most convinced, having listened to this tape. If this revolution, this new way of being, is to take hold and overcome all of the remaining non-spirituality that infects the world, it will have to reach a critical mass in all areas of our existence. The most important question to be asking yourself as you look to find your own place in this spiritual revolution is, how do I see the world I live in? If you want, you can deny the spiritual revolution I have described, and instead see a world that is slowly but surely deteriorating into a non-spiritual morass. That will be your experience of the world you live in. Yet those who see the light of the world view the dark spots as merely potential light. Where is your place in the spiritual revolution? You are here on purpose to help make these changes manifest more profoundly and permanently into the consciousness of all of mankind. Your place in this revolution will solidify if you fill yourself with love. You must be able to radiate outward all that you are gaining in your spiritual consciousness. You have the power to do just that if you make that choice. As you do this on your own personal and local level, you will find yourself expanding and reaching more and more people. That is precisely what has been happening with all of the spiritual revolution changes that you see around you. You are truly the world, and your thoughts do make all the difference in this world. Have reverence for your mind. Treat your invisible inner reality with sacred, blissful appreciation. In all that I have said about creating real magic, nothing is more important than your coming into contact with the higher part of yourself. At first, you will very likely reject this notion of yourself as a miracle worker in the worldwide realm of real magic. Increasingly, however, people are believing in their own divinity and trusting in the divine wisdom that created them. They are helping to create the spiritual revolution that is now occurring. You, one person with a vision, are like a pebble in a stream, moving ever outward to infinity. impacting on all who come into contact with that ripple, which creates the spiritual world I believe in so strongly. You make all the difference in the world. Your presence here is a divine necessity, perfect and purposeful. This is your miracle making in action. By aligning yourself with your spiritual side first rather than secondarily, you will radiate out that peace that is within. You will not be dissuaded from your mission just because others are not with you. You will stay focused on what you are for in all areas of your life. The bad news, the emphasis in the media on tragedy and pessimism will not capture your attention. You will note these as areas for improvement, but your inner divine self will be noting also how many acts of healing, kindness, and friendliness outnumber those of suffering. It truly thrills me that I have been able to create this work on real magic from within my mind. It has been a magical journey for me. I shiver inside with the awareness that it can make a difference in your life and in the entire physical world we are all immersed in. My closing quotation is from the ancient writer Philo. Households, cities, countries, and nations have enjoyed great happiness when a single individual has taken heed of the good and beautiful. Such people do not only liberate themselves, they fill those they meet with a free mind. You are that single individual, becoming a spiritual being and taking heed of the good and the beautiful. You will indeed fill yourself and those around you with a new freedom in their minds, the freedom to create real magic. God bless you.
Most college majors, when you study, there's a very high percentage of people who major in something in college end up doing something completely different. I'm one of them. It's really about allowing. That's how Abraham puts it. It's just about allowing. It's just having a knowing. A knowing means there's a banishment of all doubt. One of the keys to higher awareness, banishing the doubt. Just letting go of that and just allowing it to flow, that there's an opportunity. I was telling my daughter, the one I spoke about earlier, who's had addiction issues and so on, who's trying to just get herself back after this program and get a job. And she said, it's just so hard to get a job. I said, if you just look around, I said, just look around at, within a mile of where you are. And the next day she called me back and she said, Dad, she said, I got a job. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm working at a motel. I said, what are you doing in the motel? She said, whatever it is that they want me to. I just walked in there and said, you know what? I just went through this program, and I would just like to do something, like anything at all that I can do. And all of a sudden, she's carrying around keys. This is her second day on the job, and she's only getting paid a minimum wage. It doesn't make any difference what she's being paid. The idea is that there are opportunities in every single moment of our life, but if you're filling your mind with it can't happen, it's not for me, this is a tough economy, things are going bad. If this is the way that you think, it's like, what is the slogan that I'm probably best known for? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's a quantum truth. You just change the way you look at it all and say, you walk into a McDonald's and you're working at the French fry machine, and the person that I'm talking about being is thinking, how am I going to own this place? I got to learn French fries first, and then I got to learn how to grill the hamburger, and then I got to learn so I'll just learn all of that, and then I'm going to figure out a way to own this place. And this is how they're thinking. Their mind is constructed that way, instead of looking at the things as wrong, and I can't do it, and it's not possible, and I don't have any opportunities. There are opportunities in every moment.
I could go for 2 hours and tell you how the very first book how Your Erroneous Zones got published. In 2 minutes, I can tell you that I was given an appointment I took the manuscript that I had written in 1974, that I told you about earlier, and took it to my agent, Artie Pine, had arranged for me to have a meeting with a man named Paul Fargus at T.Y. Kroll Company in New York City. And I went there, and Paul was so depressed and so upset, and he was just broken down. And I was a therapist. I had a practice there, and I said, I was there to have him see if he would be willing to publish my book. So it was supposed to be about me. And this man was, you could just see, and I forgot about the manuscript, and I spent 3 hours counseling him and talking to him and telling him, because the night before his wife had said she wanted a divorce. And they had 2 children, and he was just so broken up, he just didn't know if he could even make it. And we talked for a long time. He became one of my best friends, and I talked to him and helped him through that whole process. And my agent called me after the meeting. He said, "So, how did it go? How was your meeting? Are we going to get this book published? You think they'll publish it?" And I said, "Forgot to talk about the book." Never mentioned it. He was so angry at me. It was the only time he was really angry at me. He said, "Do you know what it took for me to get this appointment for you? You're a nobody. Nobody even knows who you are. And you're not talking about the book. You've just blown the biggest opportunity you ever had." And that same evening, Paul called Artie and told him, "I don't care what his book's about, I want to publish his book." It's true story, true story. So it's like, when you forget about yourself, I mean, what's the lesson in that? When you let go of what's in it for me, and the mantra of the ego is, what's in it for me? How much more can I get? What about me? How about me? I want some more. The mantra of the higher self is, how may I serve? What may I do for you? And when you do that, everything shows up for you. That's when you follow your excitement. And when your excitement, what did I say yesterday? When you follow your excitement, you will be supported and it will be effortless. Because you are now aligned with God. That's what God is, your excitement. What excites you? And what excited me in that moment, back in 1975, when I had that meeting with Paul, what excited me was what excited me every day when I had my practice and my patients would come in and I would talk to them, is helping somebody to get over what seems like a trauma that is just irresolvable. The stewardess was standing there and she said, "Oh no. Oh no." She knew who I was. I had been talking to her. She said, this is what I dread." I said, "What's the matter?" She said, "There's 176 people on this plane. Every one of them is going to say something nasty to me when they get off the plane. They're going to blame me, they're going to blame the airline, and they're going to..." I said, "But you don't have to let that in." She said, "What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, you've got 2 packages. 2 suits that are protecting you from anybody coming to you with that disharmony." She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you got your uniform." I said, "That's one package, and that's over the other package, which is your body, and then both of those are protecting or covering who you really are, which is how you choose to process all of this and how you choose to think and who you really are." I said, "Each person that comes up by you and says something negative or nasty, you can just let that only be a message to your uniform, to your package. That's not me," and you can remind yourself, they're not talking to me. They can't get to me with that stuff. They can't have that. I don't let anybody come to me unless they come with love or harmony to who I really am. So you can just say, "Well, I'm very sorry," and have a good... And it's like, and you say, "Well, they didn't get to me, and they didn't get to me. They're not reaching me with that." And sure enough, she stood there and she watched as 176 people got off, and I'd say 150 of them said something nasty to her on the way out. And each time she just sort of smiled and said, "Yes, well, it'll be 2 hours." And she gave them instructions on where to go. And when it was all done, she sat down next to me. She said, "That was fantastic. It's the first time that we've ever had a circumstance like this where I didn't let it bother me." I said, "You don't have to let that stuff into your life." And it's just like in the meditation in the field. When those thoughts start impinging on the field, the pastel that you have created, you don't have to let them in. They bounce. I do it all the time. When I'm driving, and if anybody gives me... I don't take any of that inside. I just say, "Oh, that's them, and that's how they're reacting to my form." Having a quiet mind in a practical sense is really understanding that what I'm talking about is not just for discussion. It's for application. If you're the kind of person who has your mind filled with 10 different things that you have to do, and that is producing anxiety, stress, ulcers, colds, backaches, headaches, cramps, runny noses, all of the kinds of physical reactions and manifestations of that kind of thinking, then you have to look at how can you just get a blank mind, or how can you get a quiet mind? How can you just understand that, supposing you're thinking about, you got to get to work, you've got this report you got to get out, you got to get your taxes done, you got to stop and get some diapers on the way home. Now the kids need to have bananas, and they've got dance lessons I've got to get them to. An endless catalog of activities. By using your mind to do that, and to occupy it all the time, none of that is going to get done. See, all of that is going to get done. Regardless, if you're the kind of person who does those things, it's going to get done. The question is, how do you use your present moments?
See, anytime you use up your present moment, or anytime that you are thinking anxious thoughts, you're denying the present. You're using up the present moment instead of using it up in a productive, peaceful, serene, calm way. You are somehow believing that you can't get through this day or this moment any other way, that if I don't think about it and worry about it and be anxious about it. But the fact is, it's going to get done. Your taxes are going to get done. You're not going to jail. You're not the kind of person who's going to opt to just simply not do your taxes. You're going to get the diapers. You're going to get the report done. All of that you're going to get done. Otherwise, you wouldn't be in the position that you're in. You would be doing something else, all right? So if you know that it's going to get done, the question is, what's the most efficient and effective and peaceful way to get things done? I use the analogy often of when you're in a hurry, like when your body is in a hurry. That's when you're least effective. And that's when you always drop something. You'll drop the keys and then you'll start sweating. And then when you start sweating, you find yourself getting more upset. You'll forget something. And you'll walk out the door and you'll slam the door, and you left the key on the inside. Now you don't have a key. I've talked about when you take a shower. If you rush through a shower because you only have 5 minutes to take a shower, and you finish and you take your shower and then you dry yourself off, you didn't need to take a shower because you're already dirty again. I mean, you're already sweating. You can take the same 5 minutes and take a shower, if that's all you have. And you can do it peacefully. The same 5 minutes. You can push all of the other stuff out and you can just relax. And if you've got 3 minutes, instead of rushing through it, you can just let the water pour. You can experience the water. You can wash your body. You can dry it all out. And when you finish, you're not sweating. And you had the same amount of time. The nervousness and all of that comes from the way that you decide to process. Now, in the physical world, you understand that if you hurry and rush and are filled with 1,000 different activities, that you have decreased your efficiency. Why isn't the same thing true in the mental world, in your mind? If you are filling your mind with all of the things that you have to do, and you're worried about all of those things and get yourself all consumed with them, then you're still going to be less efficient, less effective, and you're still going to be cluttered. At a moment like that, you put on a tape. If you're going to drive, you got to drive. You can't get the bananas and the diapers and the report done and the IRS taken care of in the car on the freeway. You can't do that then. You're driving. So why not be here now, as Ram Dass says. Be here now. Here's some music. Put on a tape. Meditate right there. Don't close your eyes. But just, like, push it all out. All of that's going to get handled. But meantime, I'm going to enjoy this. My ride from my home to my office is 17 miles. I love those 17 miles. There's a million things to see in those 17 miles. I cannot write my books or get my speeches. I can't do any of that in that time. But I can enjoy all of that. I can be there with it. I can open the windows and I can let the wind blow on me and I can experience that and enjoy all of that. And when I get to where I'm going, if I've got to get the report done, I'm now prepared to do it. I'm not working on the report thinking about my taxes or getting the diapers or getting the bananas or whatever it may be. I'm here now in the moment. That's what meditating teaches you. Being here now in the moment. Quiet, joyful, peaceful. When you're there and you get your mind trained to do that, that isn't just like something you do for 15 minutes a day just to give you something to do for that 15 minutes. That carries over into everything that you do.
So, knowing that we have a higher self, or a highest self, really means detaching ourselves from a lot of the things that we have come to believe is who we are. Now, the beliefs that we have, that we've grown up with, that we've practiced all of our daily rituals on, is what I call the tribe thinking, the thinking of the tribe. You see, all of us are members of a tribe. And that tribe might be your immediate family. It might be the ethnic group to which you belong. It might be the people who share the same color of skin that you happen to have. It may be people who have the same philosophical points of view or political points of view or religious points of view, or people who are related to you genetically in some way, cousins and aunts and uncles and so on. Anyway, there's this tribe that we sort of are born into, if you will. What I'm talking about here, when you come to know your higher self and to live by it, is leaving the tribe and leaving tribal consciousness. You see, to be an individual, when you go to the tribe and you tell them, I've discovered something that's about manifesting, and I'm going to really practice this and I'm going to do this and I know I can do this. Jesus said we can do this. Sai Baba told us we can do this. Muktananda told us we can do this. I'm going to do this. What I'm saying to you is that if you're going to learn manifesting, and you're going to understand your highest self, you have to somehow figure out a way to let go of this idea that the tribe is going to give me approval, or that I'm going to do it within the parameters that the tribe has dictated. Because what you're doing when you're learning to manifest, or when you're learning anything that is outside of the restricted parameters of the tribe, what you are doing is you are speeding up the evolution of your awareness and your consciousness. You are saying, I am going to evolve at a faster rate. But if you go to the tribe and tell them that, immediately you're going to get put into your place. You see, the mantra of the tribe is, but what will they think? That's the mantra of the tribe. What are they going to think of me? And the minute that you start playing that game of what are they going to think, you have stopped yourself from being able to evolve at a faster rate of speed. You don't go talking about it. I happen to be talking about it because I'm trying to encourage you to do it. But I don't, when I decide that I want to manifest something, when I put my attention on that, that's a very private matter between me and God. The reason that you don't share it is because it takes the energy away from what you are doing and puts it on the attention of the person that you're trying to convince. Immediately you get ego in there. And the minute that you get ego in there, you shut down the energy. You shift. So leaving the tribe and the tribal consciousness is really, what you're saying is, if I'm going to evolve at the speed at which the tribe is evolving, you're saying, I'm going to evolve, but I'm going to do it very, very slowly. And if you want to manifest, if you want to really become a manifester in your life, you don't have enough time in this lifetime. You've got to come back in 19 lifetimes. Right? You don't have enough time for that. So it's almost like getting out of that consciousness. When the question was asked of Dr. Maslow, when I asked him this question personally, what does it mean to be self-actualized? He said there are three things that you have to know and understand. One is you have to learn to become independent of the good opinion of other people. That's like at the top of the list. You have to become independent. Self-actualizers are independent of the good opinion of other people. Secondly, self-actualizers are people who have no attachment to the outcome. They are detached from the fruits of their labors. They know what their life is about, and they get on with that, and they don't get themselves concerned with how it's going to work out. They turn that over to God. They just have this knowing that it will, and that's enough. And the third is that they have no investment in power over other people. No investment in power over other people. So they're not really trying to convince anybody else or to subjugate anybody else or to dominate anyone else with their abilities. And these people who have these divine capacities are usually very, very quiet about it. And they will get disapproval, and they will acknowledge it, and it's okay. They just move along. They don't allow that to be the focus of what it is that they're going to do in their lives. I can't tell you how many people, but it's up in the hundreds of thousands, that have written to me over the past quarter of a century and told me their difficulties, their struggles, and how if they would have learned one of these three lessons, or all three of these lessons, to be independent of the good opinion of other people, to be detached from the outcome, and to get rid of your investment in the need to have power over other people, how much peace you would have in your life.
And that allowing is a great substitute for doing, and trusting, and knowing that when you align yourself in the way that I'm asking you to align yourself here today as I speak to you about meaning, when you align yourself this way and begin to trust in what Lao Tzu called your original nature, and when you understand your original nature and you return to it, basically that's all you're ever doing. Even with all of the medical practitioners that are out there, basically they're really trying to help you to return to your original nature, your nature of well-being. There's not a doctor on this planet that can heal anybody, and they will all tell you that the body is the hero. It is not any medicines or any surgeries or anything out there that is what's doing it. That healing is this most magical thing. It's like the wind, It's just, you can't get a hold of it, you can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't grasp it, and all you can do is just watch the results, watch the effects of it. You cut your hand, and it bleeds, and you just watch it. And all of a sudden, things start happening inside of your body, and red blood cells head towards that direction, and white blood cells start doing this, and all kinds of things begin happening, not just there, but in your heart, and in your lymph system, and in your elimination system, and in your neurological system. It all starts working together, and it starts sending things to it, and such a scab forms, and then the scab dries up, and then there's a scar, and then things start. Nobody's done anything. What is there to do? It's part of the magic of allowing, of just getting out of the way and not trying to do too much interfering. Yeah, if there's something in there that you have to take out, you take it out gently, but you don't fill yourself with chemicals and things that the body is going to just have to process and have difficulty with as well. This is from Abraham Heschel in a wonderful book called Man is Not Alone. I loved it. He said, life is not meaningful unless it is serving an end beyond itself, unless it is of value to someone else. That you'll never find meaning through your ego. Life is not meaningful unless it is serving an end beyond itself, unless it is of value to someone else. And secondly, this is from Albert Schweitzer, everyone's hero. The one possible way of giving meaning to your existence is that of raising your natural relation to the world to a spiritual one. In other words, you have to return to spirit if you're going to find meaning. This is from Emmanuel. Our mind doesn't know the way. Our heart has already been there. And our soul never left. Welcome home. Isn't that good? Our mind doesn't know the way, our heart has already been there, and our soul never left. And this is what I wrote. Having arrived home, each breath we take is an expression of our life's purpose. We no longer struggle to win, to gain the approval of others, to meet expectations others had for us, to acquire, to achieve, to hoard, or to fulfill someone else's idea of our Dharma. We let go of conflict, certainty, being right, fighting, dominating, vanquishing, and feeling superior. All of this ego stuff loses its power and attraction when we arrive home where meaning and purpose welcome us. We are home. From our home is where we began. You got to know that that's our home. That was our beginning. Ambition, all the way away from our home to take on a false self, a reverse, and all of the signs of coming back, returning home. And now we're home. And this is where meaning begins to be the dominant force in your life. It begins to be the all. And those around you or in your life and those you encounter who would try to take you away from your meaning, no longer even become obstacles to you. They become, in the Tao it says, a good man is a bad man's teacher, and a bad man is a good man's job. They become your job. They no longer become someone who annoys you and finds fault with you. If they do find fault with you, you're immune to it. As Maslow used to say, learn these two things and you're self-actualized. Become independent of the good opinion of other people and detach yourself from outcome. In other words, do what you do because it is your calling.
Inspiration responds to our attentiveness in various and sometimes unexpected ways. For example, when I began writing this book, I debated between the two titles, Inspiration, Your Ultimate Destiny, or Inspiration, Your Ultimate Calling. One day, while I was swimming in the ocean, I was going back and forth in my mind, trying out both titles. Still uncertain, when I'd finished my swim, I called Reed Tracy, who's the president and CEO of my publishing company at Hay House, from a payphone to get his opinion about the title. While I waited for him to answer, the word calling appeared on the miniature screen of the telephone. Nothing else, just calling. And then the word began to flash on and off as if it were trying to get my attention. When Reed answered, I told him what had just occurred, and we both agreed on Inspiration, Your Ultimate Calling, for the title of this book and this program. All of this may appear to be nothing more than a silly coincidence, but I know better. I think of the word inspiration as meaning being in spirit. When we're in spirit, we're inspired. And when we're inspired, it's because we're back in spirit, fully awake to spirit within us. Being inspired is an experience of joy. We feel completely connected to our source and totally on purpose. Our creative juices flow, and we bring exceptionally high energy to our daily life. We're not judging others or ourselves. We're uncritical and unbothered by behaviors or attitudes that, in uninspired moments, are frustrating. Our heart sings in appreciation for every breath, and we're tolerant, joyful, and loving. Being in spirit isn't necessarily restricted to the work we do or the activities of our daily life. We can be inspired and at the same time be unsure of what vocation to pursue or what activities we want to schedule. Inspiration is a simple recognition of spirit within ourselves. It's a return to that invisible, formless field from which all things emanate, a field of energy that I call intention in my previous book, The Power of Intention. My experience with being in spirit. When I'm in spirit, I have a feeling of contentment, but more than this, I experience joy. I'm able to receive the vibrational energies of my source, call them voices or messages or silent reminders, even invisible suggestions or what have you, but they're vibrations of energy that I'm able to align with as I get myself out of the way. Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, one of the world's great geniuses, once remarked, quote, "When I am, as it were, completely myself, entirely alone and of good cheer, say traveling in a carriage or walking after a good meal or during the night when I cannot sleep, it is on such occasions that my ideas flow best and most abundantly. Whence and how they come, I know not, nor can I foresee them." End of quote. We don't have to be a genius to know what Mozart speaks of. The same force in a different way is flowing through you and me right now. I've learned to remove resistance to the free flow of this spiritual energy by reminding myself to align with it, or to be in spirit in my thoughts and my expectations. When I sit down to write, my desire is to invite spirit to express through me. And I encourage ideas to flow freely. Like Mozart, I'm connected as if it were to my source in spirit, thinking and expecting to be the instrument of my spiritual source. Ideas flow, and whatever assistance I need just shows up. And, like Mozart, I can't describe how the ideas come, and I can't force them. Staying in spirit seems to be the secret to this feeling of being inspired. I also find that inspiration flows in other areas of my life when my primary mission is like what Michael Berg so beautifully describes in Becoming Like God, Kabbalah, and Our Ultimate Destiny. Quote, Just as every being is God's business, every being becomes our business as well, unquote. That is, being inspired necessitates the willingness to suspend ego and enter a space where I want to share who I am and what I have in a completely unlimited fashion. When you feel inspired, everything works. The reason that everything works is because you have left the material, the physical world, the world of the ego, and you've moved into the world of spirit. And when you move into the world of spirit, into that invisible world, you get connected. And inspiration means inspired. And Patanjali said, when you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, all your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. And you find yourself in a new and great and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. And you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamed yourself to be. There's some very important wisdom in that. This idea of finding yourself inspired means that you allow these dormant forces, these things that are in every single one of us, to come alive. Consciousness begins to expand. Things begin to show up in your life. You begin to manage the coincidences of your life.
I wrote some textbooks back in the early 70s talking about the importance of goals. And I can't have them all withdrawn, but I think that, I watch my kids, and some of them are in college now, and some of them are out, and they're worrying about what they're going to major in, and trying to set a goal, and I tell them just to try to just enjoy every single moment and just let yourself be guided. I think it's great advice for parenting. It's just guide, then just step aside and recognize that all of us have the anchor of the universe located within us. That's what Lao Tzu said. It's in every single one of us, and let yourself be swept with it. Let yourself be taken by it, rather than getting your individual ego in there saying, well, this is what I'm going to do. And it's like Arthur Miller, the great playwright. He was asked a question at an interview with the New York Times. He was 91 years old, and they said to him, are you working on another play? And he said, I don't know. He said, but I probably am. And I understood exactly what he meant. I mean, I just finished writing a book that I put a year of my life into, this Wishes Fulfilled. And last night, I called the president of Hay House, my best friend, Reed Tracy, and I said, there's an idea germinating inside of me that I think will ultimately become a book. I don't know even quite, I just know it's starting to excite me. And I've often been called the father of motivation all over the world. They've got this title they put next to me, and I always say, if I have to be the father of anything other than the 8 children that I have, I would choose to be the father of inspiration, because I think it's the reverse of motivation. Motivation is when you get a hold of an idea and you take it where you believe that you can take it with your goals, and any obstacles that come along, you're going to plow through them, you're going to make this thing happen. And that's motivation. You get a hold of an idea. Inspiration is an idea gets a hold of you, and it takes you where you were intended to go even before you were ever conceived. I can't imagine you as a little boy in Germany were thinking about, being one of the most famous authors in the world. I mean, and how it all comes about, and what's going to come next for you. And like you said, I don't even know what words are going to come out next. It's for me, it's just being completely immersed in the now and surrendering, just like turning it over. That's just what I do. I turn it over. And the most amazing things happen when you turn it over. That's when God comes into your life. That's what Carl Jung called synchronicity. You have almost like a collaboration with fate. You're letting it all unfold. In the midst of your writing, I don't know if it happens for you, but
there'll be something I'm not sure or whatever, and all of a sudden I'll go to the mail or somebody will pick up the phone and it'll be right there. And it's like, after a while you start to almost count on it. You start to realize that you don't have to do anything. You can just let it come to you.
Yes.
So I don't think you can be totally free of goals. Like, I have to go to the bathroom. So I'm going to have a goal to go to the toilet, So I don't think I can get totally out of that goal place. But by and large in my life, I just let it be. I think the Beatles had it right. When you find yourself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be, let it be. There will come an answer, let it be. I don't know, that's my theme.
I think there is a time in people's lives when there is a place for goals, but the important thing is the nature of the goal, and if it arises out of inspiration, as you call it, or a vision that comes to you of something that wants to be created through you. It could be a book. When the Power of Now came to me, I felt this urge suddenly of writing. I bought a yellow notepad and began writing the first line, and at that moment I knew it's a book, and I knew what it was about, and it was very different from the kind of casual writing I had done before over the years, sometimes after sitting with people in having a session, counseling sessions, doing meditation with small groups. I would sometimes say things and then later I would write them down because that was new to me too, but I said things that I didn't know before, they came out. So that was a more casual writing, and then suddenly an energy stream came of a very different, more empowered kind of writing, and from the very first moment I knew it's a book. So in that sense one could say I suddenly had the vision of writing a book, one could say, as one could say I had a goal of producing a book. But it wasn't something that came as with a promise of delivering some kind of personal fulfillment to me in any way, that I can become famous through that, or I can make money through that, or I can become powerful through that, people are going to listen to me. All these could have been motivations for writing a book, but it was more like something, a realization of something that wants to come into being, and then you help it along, you go with it, you become a channel through which that wants to come into being, comes into being.
Everything, remember, has a Dharma. Every creature, every rose, and every human being has a Dharma. You're already fulfilling it physically. You're already in the bodies that you were intended to be in. Remember what I said before, it is not about where you are, it's about what direction you're headed. And as long as you know you're heading in the direction of staying here in meaning. Now, this concept of a calling, I wrote a whole book about it. It's called Inspiration, in Spirit. And the subtitle is called Your Ultimate Calling. So I'm going to introduce a word here to help you to identify your calling. And that word is passion. And it doesn't make any difference to me whether that passion has anything to do with making a living, or it's a part of the DOT, the Dictionary of Occupational Titles. What is it that you find passion about? And the only condition I place on it is that it is in alignment with God or with your source. All right? So that your passion, if your passion is about killing other people, for example, if your passion is about stealing, if your passion is about, I often said that there's two ways to have the tallest building in town. One of the ways to have the tallest building in town, always, is to go around and knock down anybody else's building when they start getting taller than yours. So as soon as they get up, if you're at the 44 floors and they get to 43, 44, you just go over and you put some explosives in there and you just blow it up. And you say, I have the tallest building in town. And this is, by the way, our collective ego. This is what we do in our society and in our world, and which is about, if you really want to know my passion and my calling, it's about shifting the entire consciousness of this planet before I leave it. And that's why the film titled The Shift is so significant to me, because I know that if I can get 10 million people to watch that film, The Shift, if I can get 10 million people in America and Canada to watch that film, that we reach something called pi, 3.1416, remember? And if you can get 3.1416% of a population to align, the rest of it's called a critical mass in physics. You reach what is called phase transition. And if you align enough people or electrons or subatomic particles up and align them in a certain way in an energy field, and you reach what they call the 100th monkey, when you reach that point, all the rest of the electrons or the people in that energy field begin to align as well. And we have aligned ourselves collectively with a consciousness that allows for people to knock down other people's buildings. The other way to have the tallest building in town is to always work on your own building and not be concerned with anybody else's building or what anyone else out there is doing, or being consumed with trying to compete with or win or defend. To listen to your calling. So your calling is the thing within you that has your attention, that has your passionate attention. And it doesn't make any difference whether it makes sense to anybody else. It's the thing that you feel inside of you that you're here for. It's Mr. Holland in Mr. Holland's opus. And here's the secret, here's the thing that I learned. That it's the presence of the passion. That when you have the presence of the passion within you for what it is that you feel is your calling, everything else will take care of itself. That is an indication that you have God within you and guiding you. The word enthusiasm and theos, iasm, translates to the God within in Greek. The God within. When you are enthusiastic about something, anything, when you have that kind of internal knowing that this is what I'm doing. And sometimes you have to, that Shakespeare's, he wasn't just a great writer, he was an incredible philosopher. Probably the most famous lines from Shakespeare are from Hamlet. To be or not to be, that is the question. And that's a very profound question. But what follows that is much more profound. He said, after to be or not to be, that is the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the minds of men to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take arms against a sea of troubles, and thus by opposing end them. You have to ask the question, and that's what this program is about, and that's what the movie is about, and that's what the book is about, and that's what all of it is about. To be or not to be. Am I going to be who I came into this world to be, and there's something inside of me that has always been calling me to it? Or am I going to allow the slings and arrows of an outrageous fortune that has been imposed upon me by others to dictate my Dharma? That's really the question. And it's a question that you can answer and respond to and live with